A very good morning to all. Welcome to our new session on the secure hash algorithm. In this session, we are going to discuss about the introduction part related to this secure hash algorithm, and we will also discuss what are the various steps that are required to implement this secure hash algorithm. We will be discussing about this SHA-512. So, our entire topic of interest will be on the SHA-512 algorithm. SHA is nothing but the short form of this secure hash algorithm. So, it is an acronym which stands for secure hash algorithm. So, let us start our discussion with the introduction part of this secure hash algorithm. These are the introductory concepts which tells the importance of the secure hash algorithm, that is SHA. So, from now onwards, we will be calling this secure hash algorithm in the shortest form as SHA. The SHA algorithm is the most widely used hash function. Why it is most widely used means, if you consider the remaining hash functions other than this SHA algorithm, they are subjected to the cryptanalytic weakness. So, they have the crypt analysis can be performed on those hash functions and they are vulnerable to the cryptanalytic weaknesses. But till now, the secure hash algorithm does not have any reports saying giving the weaknesses of this secure hash algorithm. Because of this reason, the SHA is the most widely used hash function in the recent years, and it was developed by NIST. The NIST stands for National Institute of Standards and Technology, and whatever they have published, whatever they have proposed, the secure hash algorithm, that initially they are calling it as SHA-0. This 0 represents the version. So, the initial version is SHA-0, which was proposed by National Institute of Standards and Technology, and once they have proposed this one, they have published it in the Federal Information Processing Standard. In short form, we will call it as FIPS 180, and it was taken in the year 1993. So, this secure hash algorithm is a age-old algorithm, but still it is being used because of its strengths. We will discuss the strengths of the SHA algorithm at the end of this session. And in 1995, the SHA was revised because they found some weaknesses inside this SHA-0, therefore, they want to revise it. And they have revised it, they have made necessary modifications, and they have published it in the year 1995, and they called it as SHA-1. Therefore, this is version 1. We won't say it as version, you just call it as the SHA-1. And the actual specification for this SHA-1 is specified inside this RFC 3174. We know very well about this RFC, we have been telling about this RFC. In the computer networks concepts, any concept that you want to describe, they should be described inside a document, and that document we are calling it as recommended for comments. So, it is a document which gives all the descriptions about this SHA-1. SHA-0 is defined inside this FIPS 180, and SHA-1 is defined inside this RFC 3174. And remember that this SHA-1 and SHA-0 does not have much difference. So, this RFC 3174 is nothing but a duplicate of FIPS 180, but what they have done is they have added the modifications as well as they added the C implementation for this SHA-1 algorithm. And what the NIST has done is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, they have reissued the revision on this SHA-1 in the year 2002. And one of the important thing you have to remember here is SHA is based on the hash function MD4. Why? Because MD stands for, we know this, MD stands for message digest. and its design closely models this MD4. Why? Because the SHA is designed closely towards this MD4. And the SHA-1, which was proposed in the year 2002, it is going to generate the message digest, that is the output of this SHA algorithm is a hash value which we are calling it as the message digest, and the message digest length is 160 bits length. So in short form we can call this SHA-1 as SHA-160 also. So this 160 which is succeeded after this SHA represents the number of bits that are present inside the message digest. After we have this SHA-1, NIST, what they have done is they have produced a revised version of this standard, that is FIPS 180, which they are naming it as FIPS 180-2. This is the advanced version. And in this FIPS 182, they have developed 3 different versions of SHA, that is SHA 256 and SHA 384, and the third version is SHA 512. I told you, right, this SHA 160, this 160 represents the number of bits that the SHA is going to generate, that is the message digest, how many bits the message digest is going to have, that is represented with this number. So if you consider this SHA 256, this is going to generate a message digest of 256 bits. Similarly, SHA 384, this is going to generate a message digest of 384 bits. Similarly, 512, this is going to generate the output, the hash value or the message digest, which is having 512 bits. And all these SHA 256, SHA 384 and SHA 512, they are combinedly grouped and they are simply called as SHA-2. Don't worry about this SHA-0, it is initial version that was developed, but you should understand that SHA-1 means you are discussing about SHA-160, and SHA-2 means you are discussing about all these 3 versions, that is SHA-256, SHA-384 and SHA-512. They are combinedly called as SHA-2. It's a new version. And remember that the SHA-2 doesn't have much changes. The new versions have the same underlying structure and they use the same types of modular arithmetic as well as the logical binary operations as that of SHA-1. So to represent this SHA-2, they have developed a new version which is called as FIP. That is nothing but Federal Information Processing Standard 183, and this is done in the year 2008. Right. So the advancement of this SHA-2 is FIPS 183. It was proposed in the year 2008, and they are going to concentrate on a new version of SHA, which is SHA 224 bit version. So this is all about the introduction part related to the secure hash algorithm. Only important points that you should keep it in mind is it is the most widely used hash function, because all the remaining hash functions what we have discussed, what are all there present inside this cryptography concepts, they are vulnerable to cryptanalytic attacks. But till date, the secure hash algorithm, till date means it was proposed in, the initial version was proposed in 1993, and till date there are no good attacks that happen on SHA. So we have the initial version as SHA-0, and the second version is SHA-1, which represents SHA-160, that means it is going to generate 160 bits message digest. And after that we have FIPS 182, which represents this SHA-2, which is a combination of SHA-256, SHA-384 and SHA-512. And then we also have this advancement of this SHA-2, which we can call it as SHA-3 also, which is described inside this FIPS 183, and that is SHA-224. This is what we have discussed. So, SHA-1 produces a hash value of 160 bits. In 2002, NIST produced a revised version of the standard FIPS 182, which generates a hash value of lengths 256, 384 and 512, and we can call them as SHA-256, SHA-384 and SHA-512 respectively. And collectively these hash algorithms we are calling it as SHA-2. Everything is explained clearly. These new versions has the same underlying structure, this also we have told, and they use the same types of modular arithmetic and logical binary operations as SHA-1. And in addition to this SHA-2, the NIST has proposed the FIPS 183 in 2008, which is having a 224-bit version. And these are the comparison of various SHA parameters. It is just for the information purpose. No need to by heart these things. You just have an idea of what is happening inside various versions of SHA. What are the input parameters? What are the size of the message? What is the size of the message digest it is going to generate? What is the block size? What is the word size? And how many number of rounds are required? All these things is comprehensively listed inside this table. So, these columns or these rows represents the parameters, SHA parameters, and the columns represents the various versions of SHA we have. The first is SHA-1, it is also represented as SHA-160, and this SHA-224 is, we can call it as SHA-3, and this SHA-256, SHA-384 and 512, as I told that they can be represented as SHA-2. And as I told that our point of interest in this present discussion is around this SHA-512 only. If you know about this SHA-512, the underlying structure remains the same. That is what we have discussed, right? The underlying structure and the data types and the various functions such as the modular arithmetic and logical binary operations, everything remains similar. So, we are going to concentrate on this 512. So, let us have what is there in this table. Let us have a discussion on what is there in this table. Coming to the message digest size, SHA-1 will have 160, SHA-224 will have the message digest of 224, 256, and SHA-384 having message digest of length 384, SHA-512 is having a message digest of length 512. This is very much clear. We have discussed it in the previous discussions. And coming to the size of the message, which the each and every hash function is going to deal is, for SHA-160, the message size should be less than 2 power 64, and similarly for SHA-224 it is less than 264, and for SHA-256 it is less than 2 power 64, but for SHA-384 and SHA-512 we have the size of the message less than 2 power 128. And coming to the third parameter, that is the block size. The block size of SHA-160, SHA-224 and SHA-256 remains same, which is 512 bits. Whereas for SHA-384 and SHA-512, the block size is 1024. What is this block size? It is nothing but we are going to divide the message into number of blocks, and each and every block under this SHA-512 will be having a size which is equivalent to 1024 bits. That is the meaning of block size. And similarly word size. It is going to take some different words for performing various modular arithmetic or binary operations or some operations they are going to perform. And the word size is 32 for these SHA-160, SHA-224 and SHA-256. But the word size is 64 bits for SHA-384 and SHA-512. And remember, this is very important. The number of steps that are required, we can call it as the rounds also. We might have gone through this DES and AES algorithm. The cryptographic algorithms is not a simple algorithm, or it is not a simple task, right? You are going to define one round which consists of number of operations and which consists of number of P boxes and S boxes, and each and every round, that particular round may be repeated n number of times. Maybe 10 rounds we will have, or 80 rounds we will have, like this. In the similar fashion, the hash function what we are going to discuss here, that is the SHA, is also going to be performed iteratively. We are going to perform number of rounds. If you consider the SHA-160, SHA-220, SHA-160, it goes around 80 rounds. So the same operation you are going to perform for 80 different rounds. And for SHA-224 and SHA-256, it is only 64, and for SHA-384 and 512, you are going to perform 80 rounds of the same operations, same operation. So remember these SHA-512 parameters. The message digest size, that is the output, is 512 bits, and the message size should be less than 2 power 128, very large message, this one. And whatever message you have, up to this maximum value it will support. Whatever message you have, you are going to divide it into number of blocks, and each block should be of size 1024 bits. And the word size is 64, and the number of rounds is 80. You just remember these parameters. That's it. Once we are clear about these various parameters of different SHA versions, let us have a look at the SHA-512 logic. Very important. The algorithm, the SHA-512 algorithm, it is going to take an input as a message with a maximum length of less than 2 power 128 bits. This is what we told here, we have discussed here. This one, message length. And the output it is going to produce is the message digest, which is just 512 bits message. You can see here that the message length is less than 2 power 128. So anything that is less than 2 power 128 is accepted, and it is going to, that is the variable length message, it is going to accept. But of course we are going to divide the variable length message into equal sized blocks, that's a different case. But what is the output, what is the input and output? For example, this is SHA-512, I take it as a black box, and the input will be a message of different length, variable length. And when you pass this message of consisting of variable length into this SHA-512, it is going to divide it into the equal sized blocks, which is where the block size is 1024. That's a different case. But by looking at the output structure, the input is a variable length message, and the input is a variable length message, but the output is fixed, which is 512 bits, which is nothing but the hash value, or it is also called as message digest. And the input is going to be processed in 1024 bit blocks. This is block size. We will see the logic of this SHA-512, and you will come to know how it is going to convert these variable length messages into the fixed sized blocks. These parameters regarding this SHA-512 are very important. So this is the overall structure of the message digest generation using SHA-512. This is the overall structure. The entire structure of generating this message digest using this SHA-512 has been divided into 5 steps. So in the first step, what we are going to do is we are going to append. Let me write like this. So we are going to append the padding bits. So this is the actual message I have from here to here, which is of L bits, and this L is less than 2 power 128. This is what the restriction we have in the SHA-512. The message length should be less than 2 power 128. And for this message, as a first step, what we are going to do is we are going to append the padding bits. Why we are going to add these padding bits is the message is padded so that the length is congruent to 896 mod 1024. So you are going for making this entire message to be divided into equal sized blocks, that is 1024 bits. This is one block and this is second block, and we have n blocks here, and each and every block is a 1024 bits. The reason why we are adding these padding bits is very much clear, that we need to generate the blocks. Each of block size you will be having 1024 bits. To do this, we need to pad the bits to the actual message, and that the other is saying that the message length should be around 896 modulo 1024. So for this reason we are adding these padding bits. So this is padding bits. This is step 1. You can see here clearly. And remember that padding is always needed to make these 1024 bit blocks, n blocks or n plus 1, anything is okay, right? But in order to make it as 1024 blocks of n blocks, you require this padding. And you can observe here what padding bits they have added. The leftmost bit, that is the most significant bit, is given as 1, and the remaining bits is represented as 0. So the number of padding bits is in the range of 1 to 1024. And you can observe here that, as I told, that the padding consists of single 1 bit followed by any number of zeros, any number of necessary zeros. You cannot add it as if you want, right? You should remember that the purpose of padding is to make the blocks, n blocks, consisting of 1024 bits for each block. And after you pad these bits, the step 2, let me write like here, step 2 is nothing but append length. Append length. By this name you can understand that you are going to append the length of the original message. What is the length of the original message we have here? It is L bits. For this you are going to add or pad the 1 followed by a sequence of zeros. But there should be a provision to distinguish the original message with the padded bits. This is also, message is also a sequence of zeros and ones like this. But how we are going to differentiate the padded bits with the message, original message, means you are going to make use of this field. So this is step 2. So you are going to append, after padding the bits, you are going to attach the length of the original message. So it is of length 128 bits. So the length is of size 128 bits. That means you are going to append a block of 128 bits to the message after padding. And this block, this 128 bits is treated as unsigned 128 bit integer. Why it is unsigned means there is no need for representing the positive and negative sign. This particular field is going to represent the length of the original message. Therefore, you can represent it as the unsigned 128 bit integer. And what does this L consist of? I told that it is going to represent the length. Therefore, it is going to represent the length of the original message. And that too before padding. So this field, the L field, is going to distinguish the original message bits with the padded bits. That is the purpose of the second step, append length. So after this second step, whatever output you have from these first two steps, they are going to result a message from here to here. You can see here. So the output of these two steps is, it is going to generate a message that is an integer multiple of 1024 bits. Why 1024? The reason is the SHA-512 is defined in such a way that each and every block should be 1024 bit length. And we are generating n blocks of each and every block consisting of 1024. So the output of this step 1 and step 2 is, you are going to generate a message that is an integer multiple of 1024 bits in length. So you can see here that the entire length is going to be divided into n blocks, each of size 1024. And let me represent these n blocks with m1, m2 and so on up to mn. So the total length will be equal to n into 1024. This is the output of the second step. And the third step, very, very important, and this is the heart of the entire SHA algorithm. This we can say it as the operation round step, or you can, the other is calling it as initialize. Sorry, this is the third step is not the heart, it is just initializing the hash buffer. Very simple step, this one. So this is step 3. We are going to initialize a buffer which is used for performing the hash functions. And you can observe here that the length of this initializing vector IV is 512 bits. And what is the use of this buffer? Why we are going to use this H1, H2 and so on up to Hn, and why we are using this H0, which is the initialization vector? The reason why we are using this buffer, the name itself is saying that it is a buffer. Therefore, it is used to hold the intermediate and final results of, it is going to hold the intermediate and final results of hash function. So after this round, after this first block is processed, the output is stored inside this H1. That means it is stored in the buffer. Similarly, after this block 1024 M2 block is processed, the result is going to be stored inside this buffer. Like that, the final round output or the final block, after processing the final block, nth block, whatever result you get, that is stored inside this buffer Hn, and this will be the output, which is nothing but hash value or message digest. This is what you have to understand. And as you can see that the buffers are of size 512 bits, and the buffer can be represented as 8 64-bit registers, right. So this 512 bits is divided into 8 64-bit registers. All these registers, they are naming it as A, B, C, D, E, F, G and H. So each A is called as one register, 64-bit register, B is another 64-bit register. Like that we have 8 64-bit registers. So 8 into 64, which is nothing but 512 bits. So this is the purpose of the buffer. And these registers, the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H are initialized to some default hexadecimal values. So for example, if you take A, it is having something like 6A09E667 and so on like this, and 08. So the entire these bits consists of 64 bit, and these are the hexadecimal notations. Initially we have this H0, which is the initial buffer value. This initial buffer value will be having some default values. So this is the value that I have given for A. Like that, all these 8 64-bit registers will have some default values. And how we are going to generate these default values, that is not our concept, and that is not our point of view. And a simple reason what the other has given is these 8 64-bit registers are the initial values of these 8 64-bit registers are generated or obtained by taking the first 64 bits of fractional parts of square root of first 8 prime numbers. This is the logic they have used. We are not bothered about this. So the first 64 bits fractional parts of the square root of the first 8 prime numbers is taken to generate the initial values of these 8 64-bit registers. Forget about this one. This is not our choice, right? And once the step 3 is completed, once you have initialized the hash buffer with 8 64-bit registers, this one, initial values. Step 4, we are entering into step 4, which is very, very important, and this is the heart of SHA-512. This step is defined as a processing step. So we are going to process the message here. We are going to process the message in 1024 bit blocks. Let us describe this step 4 clearly. So up to this point we are very much clear about step 1, step 2 and step 3. Let us go into the fourth step. Let us revise this step 1, step 2 and step 3, and then we will go and clearly explain what is this step 4. As I told that the step 1 is append padding bits. The message is padded so that its length is congruent to 896 modulo 1024. Padding is always needed. Thus the number of padding bits range from 1 to 1024. The padding consists of one bit followed by necessary number of 0 bits. This is what I told. And the second step is append length. A block of 128 bits is appended to the message. This block is stated as unsigned 128 bit integer, and this consists of length of original message before the padding. And the third step is initialize hash buffer. So every buffer is a 512 bit buffer, and this is used to hold the intermediate and final results of the hash function. and the buffer can be represented as 8 64-bit registers which are represented as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. And initially for the value of H0, the initial values of all the registers are given here. There is no need to by heart this thing, but you just remember the values here, right? And the hexadecimal values, these are nothing but the hexadecimal values. And once we are done with these 3 steps, let us go with the 4th step, this one. So we are going to process the message in 1024-bit blocks. So this is called as the processing step, and this is the heart of the algorithm, right? See here in the previous diagram you can see that this is nothing but where you are going to process the things, or where you are going to process the message of 1024-bit block. So F, that means in step 4 we are going to define F. What is this F? What does it consist of? All these things we are going to discuss. So if you look at the diagram here, this represents F. This entire diagram represents F. So if you go back to the diagram, you can see clearly that the F is having 2 inputs. See clearly. So the F is having 2 inputs. One is the message M1 and the buffer value H0. So for this is the first message block, right? M1. For the first message block, you can observe here that the initial hash value H0 is given as input. This is H0, and M1 is given as input, and the output it is going to generate is going to be added. I will tell you what this addition is. It is not exclusive OR operation, it is just an add-in operation. So this F consists of 2 inputs followed by 1 output. And what are those 2 inputs? One is M1 and the previous value of buffer H0. Similarly, if you take this function F, it is having 2 inputs. One is the M2. This is for second block, right? M2 block, second block. And for the second block, the function F is going to take the input as M2 and the previous hash value, this H1. Similarly, for this function, last function, the input is nth block and the hash value is from n minus 1. This point we have to understand. So by keeping this in mind, let us move to our discussion. You can see here that each and every function is having 80 rounds. We have seen it in the table also. If you remember the table, the SHA-512 is having the number of rounds as 80. So the single F function is going to represent the 80 rounds of operation. Right. So you can see, I will discuss one round and it will be repeated for 80 rounds. That is a different case. So round 0, let me discuss. As we know that each and every round will have 2 inputs. One is the message MI and the second input is the buffer value, that is HI minus 1. This is what I told. For the first block, the input will be M1 and another input will be H0. So if you take the second block, the input will be M2 and the output will be another input will be H1. Like that, if you take ith block, the input will be MI and it also consists of HI minus 1. This is what you can understand here, this one. And every H, the initial hash value, the buffer hash buffer is divided into 8 registers, 8 64-bit registers, and every register is of length 64. You can observe here. Right. So let me explain this. Each round takes as input the 512-bit buffer value, this one, that is represented as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and updates the contents of the buffer. And how it is going to update, this is the output here, that we will see. At input to the first round, the buffer has the value of intermediate hash value, that is hi minus 1. And if you consider each round t, it makes use of another 64-bit value, that is W0, very important. And you can see here that W0 is being generated. This is a 64-bit value, and it is derived from, it is taken from MI. So whatever message block you have 1024, this message is 1024 bit. Whatever 1024 bits you have, from that you are going to generate these W0, W1 and so on up to W79, and each W is having a value of 64. Right. And as I told that this W value is generated from the current 1024 bit message block. And how we are going to generate these, and this is not our scope, right? In addition to this W0, each and every round is going to make use of another value which is called as K0, K1 and so on up to K79. If you look at this diagram, it appears as if it is going to take only two inputs. One is the message block and another one is the buffer. But internally, in addition to this message block and buffer, this Mi and Hi minus 1, it is also going to make use of other values which is W and K, where this K is called as the additive constants. This K is called as the additive constants. This particular additive constant indicates, and these additive constants are the words that represent the first 64 bits of fractional parts of the cube roots of the first 80 prime numbers. So the logic for generation of this K0, initially also we have discussed it at this point. So how these 64 bits of fractional parts of square root of first 80 prime numbers is taken for generation of these initial values A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. In the similar fashion, for generation of this K0, that is the additive constants, they are going to use a logic. The logic is they are going to take the first 64 bits of the fractional parts of the cube roots. Here they are going to use the cube roots of first 80 prime numbers. What is the reason for adding these additive constants? There is a purpose for adding this additive constant. The purpose is they are going to provide the randomization of the output. So these additive constants, they provide the randomized set of 64 bits. So this length is 64. Similarly, the W0 is also 64. W0 is generated by making some alterations or by making use of some operations that are performed on this message block 1024 message block. But the K0 additive constants are generated by taking the first 64 bits of the cube roots of the first 80 prime numbers. That is the logic they have used. But why we require these additive constants means the constants provide a randomized set of 64-bit patterns. So every time you take they are going to generate different 64-bit patterns. Why we require randomness? I told you that the initial requirement of the hash functions is they should generate the randomness. There should not be regularities in the input data. So in order to randomize the data, or in order to remove the regularities in the input data, we are going to introduce these additive constants. Right. So there are different there is a table that describes how they are going to generate, but this is not our point of interest, right? And this is how the first round is being performed. While you go into depth into this round 0, which is not in our scope of discussion, they are going to make use of different additive operations, and they are going to make use of the summation operations, and they are going to use different operations like exclusive OR operations. Everything they are going to use. We are not going deep into the round, but what happens in the round 0, they are going to accept two inputs, mi and hi minus 1. Mi is of 1024 bit and hi minus 1 is of 512 bits. And similarly, in addition to it, they are going to make use of some constants like the w0 and k0. I am explaining about this round 0. This happens in every round. So w0 and k0 are the 64-bit words. And why these additive constants k0 and w0 are used is they are going to generate the randomized outputs, randomized 64-bit patterns. Randomness, pseudo randomness is one of the requirement of the hash functions. This is what we have discussed. So in the previous session we have discussed that various requirements of the hash function are the variable length input, the fixed length output, and similarly we have the efficiency and some of the resistance properties such as pre-image resistant, second pre-image resistant, collision resistant, and finally the seventh property or the seventh requirement we have is the randomness, pseudo randomness. So the output what we are going to generate should have the randomness nature. For achieving the randomness in these 64-bit patterns, we are making use of this k0 and w0. And you can see here, this is common, this output is common, and whatever output you get from round 0, you are putting it, giving it as input to round 1, these 8 64-bit buffers. And w1 is calculated from the message m1, k1 is calculated from these cube root of first 80 prime numbers, and everywhere the round operations remains the same. And if you observe the output of the last round, that is round 80, right, since we have started with 0, it is round 79. Therefore after 80th round, the output of the 80th round, you can see here that it is added. This is the addition operation. It is added with the buffer hi minus 1. The first 512 bits are taken and they are going to add it with the 80th round output, which is also the 512, to produce the hash value of that particular block hi. See here, this hi minus 1 is taken and you are going to add it to the a, that means a is added to a, that means a of this particular round 79th or 80th round is added to a of hi minus 1 initial value. Like that, b of 79 is added to b of hi minus 1. C of 79 is added to C of hi minus 1. Like that it is going to do the things. And remember that the addition of this output of 80th round and the initial buffer value is done independently for each of the 8 words in the buffer, right. And they should follow the addition modulo of 2 power 64. This is a different thing you have to understand. So, this addition is a modulo addition and the addition modulo 2 power 64. This is not the XOR operation. This is the addition modulo 2 power 64. And the last step is nothing but the output. So, after all N1024 bit blocks have been processed, the output from the nth stage is the 512 message digest. Don't get confused that this is not the output. This is the output of the first block processor, and this is the output after processing the second block. Like that, every output of the previous block is given as input to the next block. Like that, the Hn-1, that is the output that is generated in the n-1th block, is given as input to the last round, and whatever value you get at this point, Hn, that is treated as the output or the message digest. And what is the size of this message digest? It is 512. You can see here that Hn is nothing but 512 bits, and this is the hash code you have generated. So, the last step is getting the output. The nth stage value, that is the hash value of the nth stage that is generated, will be the hash value or the output or the message digest. So, if you can summarize this SHA-512, the H0 is initial value. You can see it in the diagram here, this diagram. So, H0 is the initial value, and Hi, how we are going to generate the Hi? That is by making use of this function, sum of 64 of Hi minus 1 comma A B C D E F G H, right. So, let me take this. So, the output of one round is equal to the modulo sum of 64 of Hi minus 1 followed by A B C D E F G H of I. This is subscript, ith round, right. And the message digest, what you get is the H subscript of n, the last one, where IV stands for the initial value of A B C D E F G H buffer. It is defined in step 3. A B C D E F G H of subscript, this is subscript, I is nothing but the output of the last round of processing the ith message block, and n represents the number of blocks in the message, and sum 64 is nothing but addition modulo 2 power 64, it is 2 power 64, and the MD stands for the final message digest value. So, this is all about how the SHA-512 is going to be perform, or how the processing is done in the SHA-512. This is the logic, there is no need to remember this logic. And coming to the last point of our discussion, what are the important points of this SHA-512? Very important, right. SHA-512 has the property that every bit of hash code is a function of every bit of the input. So, we are not going to neglect any bit. Every bit of 1024 bits of the input is going to take part in the generation of the hash value. This is how the SHA-512 is designed. Every bit of input is going to take part in the generation of the output, that is the message digest. And you can see that the complex repetition of the basic function f, 80 rounds, each and every function will have 80 rounds, and you are going to repeat it. They are going to produce the results which are well mixed. What do you mean by well mixing of results? Means the result what you will get is not the same as that of the other things. That means if you take two messages at random, and two messages M1 and M2. Assume that these M1 and M2 are almost similar, they have some regularities. But even then, because of the various complex repetition operations that are present inside each and every f function, we get the result which is not the same hash code. Even though the messages have the same regularities, they are almost similar, they are going to generate different hash codes. H1 and H2 are completely different. This is the meaning of well mixing of the results what we get. And coming to the last portion of our discussion, the strengths of the SHA-512. What do you mean by the strength of a cryptographic algorithm? Means it should not be vulnerable to the attacks. It should not be vulnerable to the brute force attack. It should not be vulnerable to the cryptanalysis attack. So if you consider this SHA-512, the message digest that is going to generate. So the difficulty of coming up with two messages having the same message digest is on the order of 2 power 256 operations. Very large. It will take a lot of time to generate the same message digest for the two messages. So this is what we have seen, right? This is one of the resistant property, which is nothing but the pre-image resistance. It's not the pre-image resistance, it is the second pre-image resistance. This is the required property for SHA algorithm or for any hash function. So this particular strength at this particular point represents the second pre-image resistant property, which is the very important property that you should understand. So it is very difficult to generate the same message digest for two different messages which are almost similar. For this purpose, to generate the same message digest for for two different messages, you need to spend 2 power 256 operations. Very huge task you have to perform. Similarly, the second strength is it is difficult. The difficulty of finding a message with the given digest is on the order of 2 power 512 operations. See here, it is doubled. Right. So difficulty of finding a message from the digest. That means it is nothing but it is going to describe about the pre-image resistant property. So the hash function should be defined in such a way that you cannot be able to generate the message from the given digest or for the given hash value. This is what the pre-image resistant is going to discuss. So by using this SHA-512, the pre-image resistant will happen with 2 power 512 operations. Very hectic task. It will not happen. So for these two properties, because of these two strengths, the one is the pre-image resistant and the second pre-image resistant with 2 power 256 and 2 power 512 operations. Till now there is no weakness in SHA-512. There are no weaknesses that are present inside the 512 and they are not published till date. See the logic here. The SHA-512, that means it is SHA-2, which is developed or which was proposed in 2002 and it is 2021. Almost 20 years have gone. But till now there is no weakness that was published against this SHA-512. That is the strength of SHA-512. So that's all for today's session. Let us have a quick recap of what we have discussed in today's session. We have started our discussion on the secure hash algorithm and we have given the introduction part that this is the most widely used hash function developed by National Institute of Standards and Technology. Initially we have SHA-0, which can also be defined as SHA-160. Why this 160 means? It is going to represent the number of bits it is going to generate for the message digest. And after this in 2002 we have the SHA-2, which consists of SHA-256, SHA-384 and SHA-512. And then we have SHA-3 also, which is nothing but a 224-bit version. and we have compared the SHA parameters like the message digest size, block size, word size, number of rounds for all the SHA-1, SHA-2 and SHA-3. The point of interest for our discussion is SHA-512, what we have discussed, the logic we have discussed, right? And then we have gone through the process of generating the message digest using this SHA-12. Everything we have explained. It is explained in 5 steps. The first step is append padding bits. The second step is append length to differentiate the original message length with the padding bits. And then you initialize the hash buffer, that is 512-bit buffer. Everything is divided into 8 64-bit registers denoted by A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. And then we have the heart of the SHA-512, which is explained as the function f. This is how it is going to happen, what it is going to take as input, and how it is going to make use of the additive constants to generate the randomized 64-bit patterns, and what is that last step we are going to perform, that is the additive modulo 2 power 64. All these things we have discussed. And finally, we have ended up our discussion on the important points of SHA-12, and then the strengths of SHA-512. So that's all for today's session. Thank you one and all for joining the session.